What time is it? It's hot takes time. The shades are on. You know what time it is. What's going on, internet? So I am back today to once again talk about hot takes that you as the viewers have. Last time I talked about movies that you love that are critically trashed or members of the film community can't stand. And I just thought that it would be fun to do a part 2 of that because I got a lot of responses and a lot that I didn't manage to get to. And so now today, I'm going to get to those that I wasn't able to get to last time. As always, if you can subscribe to the channel if you're not already, that helps me out a great deal. Lets me know the type of content you're looking for. And I enjoy getting the new content out there for you guys. If you like the video, lets me know you're enjoying these hot takes. You want more. You want me to tell you the hottest takes and pick them apart for you all. So without further ado, let's get started. Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Roderick Rules is one of my favorite comedy movies, but it has a 47% on Rotten Tomatoes. Okay, Redditor, here we go. I've seen some of the Diary of a Wimpy Kid films. And what I can tell you from seeing them in the theater is I enjoyed them and I thought that there was some charm to them. Do I think they're masterpieces? No. Would I watch them again? I'm not really sure. But at that moment when I was working at a movie theater and I was getting to see these films for free, I would 100% jump on board to go laugh at some dumb children's affiliated comedy for an hour and a half. And I respect you for sticking to your guns and enjoying that content that you enjoy. Those first couple Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies had their moments. There was a couple moments I thought were pretty funny. So I'm not going to belittle you for enjoying your Wimpy Kid. Stoker is by far my most watched film of all time and my favorite, but while on Letterboxd it has a small cult following. Critics were not fans, not so much hated as it being disregarded and didn't reach expectations being from Park. You know, I really like Park Chan-wook. I think that he makes some incredible films. I think Korean cinema as a whole is amazing, and I think this is, if I'm correct, his first English language film, and I love this movie. I think it's so well executed. It has this really interesting psychological element to it that explores these damaged characters, and I think Mia Wasikowska gives arguably the best performance of her career in this movie, and I love her as an actress already. I think she's incredibly talented. I love her work in period piece films that she does. I think she's great in these type of psychological movies. If you haven't seen it, I'd recommend checking out Piercing with her and Christopher Abbott. That's a pretty fucking wild ride of a movie that she gives a similar performance to Stoker. But yeah, I do think this movie is pretty underrated. It has some excellent cinematography. It has some wonderful performances, a great score, and I would agree with you on this. I'm not quite sure why it's not as revered. I think it's probably because his native language films are much more well regarded and structured a little differently than Stoker, but I think that it's still worth watching and a fantastic film that more people do need to recognize. 2013 Oblivion, such an amazing movie. You know, this is funny. So in 2013, I was actually working at a movie theater, and I would watch every single film that would come out, regardless of what it was. I was a 23-year-old kid who was excited about movies, and I really just would watch anything that was put in front of me. And I watched Oblivion, and I too was very surprised by how good it was. I don't think it's a masterpiece or anything. I have some problems with some of the screenplay, but the cinematography is breathtaking. There are some really incredible set pieces in this that mix practical set design with CGI, and it's a gorgeous film. It's a really unique sci-fi story too. I feel like maybe the issue with this movie was the marketing, because it's a very slow-paced and quiet film. It's action-packed moments, the third act especially, but for the most part, I feel like this movie's a little more quiet and reserved. Tom Cruise gives the Tom Cruise performance. I think he's a talented actor. Sometimes he's a little off the rails and a little nuts, but I really enjoyed this movie, and I agree with you. I think it's a little underlooked at, and I think more people should check it out. Happy Death Day. You know, I don't think Happy Death Day was like critically hated at all. I'm not the biggest person to jerk off Blumhouse. I think Blumhouse makes some good movies, But Happy Death Day was actually really entertaining, and I thought Jessica Roth's performance was fantastic. She is really what made the film for me. I really liked the second one a lot as well. I don't think it was as strong, kind of pushed into the schlockier territory a little bit more, but I think it's a fun concept, this Groundhog Day-esque dying over and over again until you can figure out who your murderer is. But it was fun, and it was cute, and it was violent and entertaining. And yeah, it's one that I could watch over and over again and never get sick of. I think it's a great horror film. More people should watch it, but I don't think it was critically hated. I think it had a positive rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Maybe not as high as you would have liked it to be, but I don't think it was like a splat, or I don't think like the Letterboxd community hated it or anything. I think it's all right. I don't think you have to worry about Happy Death Day getting hated on too much. Tokyo Drift. Okay. So, I have only seen 2 Fast and the Furious movies, and I've heard all about how they get into ridiculous territory later on. People think they're hilarious, but I've got to be honest, I really have no interest in them at all. I really cannot stand Vin Diesel. I think he's a horrible actor. I've heard that in real life he's a huge asshole, and I just don't like his performance at all. Paul Walker, rest in peace. I think that he was all right. I don't think he was an incredible actor by any means. I'm sure he probably gave some decent performances throughout his career, but to me, he's just kind of everyman. I saw the first Fast and the Furious and Too Fast, Too Furious, I think was the other one. And I was like, these movies are just car racing films that try to look for something deeper that I just can't. I don't know, I felt like the screenwriting was kind of blasé, and I'm sure like when they get into schlocky territory, they're fun to watch for that over-the-top ridiculousness that people look for in an action film. But action, honestly, is not my first genre that I go towards. I have some action movies I really like, but I don't really get as much out of them as I do like horror films or indie art house movies. I have fun, stupid movies that I really do love, and I've never really jumped into this franchise. Maybe at some point I'll watch them. I know people hate the Tokyo Drift one that you're talking about. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sure that it's a fine, entertaining schlock fest, and if you enjoy it, that's great. Stick to your guns, enjoy the material that you like, but Fast and the Furious so far has proven that it is not for me personally. Daddy Daycare. Okay, so this is hilarious. When I was growing up and my parents first bought a DVD player, we owned like 9 movies on DVD for the first couple years we had it, and Daddy Daycare was one of those. And I'm pretty sure my brother and I watched it like 100 times, and it's really dumb. Eddie Murphy is like hamming it up in that movie. I have probably not seen it in, I don't know, 10 years maybe, if not more. I used to watch it, I used to think it was entertaining and dumb and fun, and I'm sure if I watched it again now, I would find it entertaining, dumb, and fun. More power to you if you're still putting Daddy Daycare into your cyclical rotation of films, because there's a lot of good shit out there to watch. And as far as like movies from my childhood that I have a fondness for, like Scooby-Doo or Master of Disguise, or any of those type of movies, I would probably revisit those before I touched Daddy Daycare again. Maybe I'd even go towards like Will Ferrell's Kicking and Screaming before I went to that movie. But more power to you for pulling Daddy Daycare out of the rotation. That's pretty impressive. 9. I saw 9 in the theater, and I thought that it was all right. I don't remember like genuinely hating it. I thought the animation was really pretty. I thought the story was really entertaining at the time when I saw it. I don't think I've ever revisited it. It would probably be an interesting one to come back to. I've noticed there's a lot of movies that have that really unique perspective that would approach an animated film with like a darker tone, and that probably was just misunderstood at the time. And I'm sure if I revisited it now, I'd probably like it a lot. I remember enjoying it when I saw it in the theater. I don't remember like certain elements of the film 100%, but I remember really liking the character designs, the soundtrack to the film, a lot about it. But yeah, that's cool that you enjoy this movie so much. That's one I might have to go back to and watch again. It's been a long time. Accepted by Steve Pink from 2006, starring Justin Long and Jonah Hill. It's the kind of American Pie type movie, and I love it. Absolutely a guilty pleasure. 2.9 average on Letterboxd. and 38% on Rotten Tomatoes, but I love this feel-good vibe. You know, funny enough, this was another film that my brother and I owned on DVD that I probably saw 100 times, and I still think this movie is hilarious. Justin Long has this, like, charm to him that even if he's in a movie and the movie's material is really terrible, because of how committed he is to the performance, I'm always, like, really enjoy his movies. I thought this movie was hilarious when I watched it, and I agree with you. I think it has this really interesting charm to it that on the surface they're like a very simplistic Hollywood-style story that have a little bit dirtier of humor to it and like have a really interesting approach. I'm not the biggest Jonah Hill fan. I actually really like Jonah Hill as a director. I thought mid-90s was pretty great, but Jonah Hill back in his Look at Me, I'm an over-the-top comedic presence. I was never really like a huge fan of his, but in Accepted, I liked his performance. I liked his babbling nerd, like, ask me about my wiener thing. I thought that was pretty funny. Yeah, this movie's entertaining. I think I don't think it deserves that much hate. Shouldn't have that low of a score. The Happening. Hey, I just did a whole review on M. Night Shyamalan's Old. You know, The Happening is a movie that I feel like was really misunderstood in the theater. It's clearly an attempt to be a bad movie. He knows what he was doing with that one, where it's like purposely over the top, ridiculous. The story is like absurd. People dying because of plants, like it's ridiculous. But what I would say about The Happening comparatively to like Old, in Old, it seemed like he was trying to balance a serious movie with that ridiculous premise, and I don't know, something about Old didn't sit with me the same way The Happening did. The Happening is a movie I could put on and just watch and laugh at over and over again and be like, yeah, this movie is intentionally dumb, stupid schlock. But Old did too much of like the back and forth of oh, am I funny? Oh, am I not funny? And I just didn't like that one as much. But yeah, The Happening, entertaining schlockfest. Last Night in Soho, and I'm thinking of ending things. I know these ones are more mixed than straight negative, but I think they count. So they're both not negatively received by critics. I think that they're kind of mixed in the community. I did reviews on Last Night in Soho, and I talked about I'm Thinking of Ending Things in my Charlie Kaufman ranked list. Both movies I like a lot. I think Last Night in Soho is a really great movie. Edgar Wright did something very different for his style, and I think it's a lot more straightforward. There's a lot less, overt comedy, fast editing, and I think maybe it was just because of how different it was than some of Wright's other material that people didn't enjoy it as much. But I like that movie a lot. I think it's really well made and enjoyable. I did a rank list for Edgar Wright. It didn't come in super high on my list because I think his other material is better. But I like this movie, and I think it's great. And I think I'm Thinking of Ending Things as a masterpiece. I think everything that Charlie Kaufman touches is incredible. And I think this is just something to add into his catalog of films that is just as great as, Anomalisa and Synecdoche, New York. It's very deep. It's an introspective look at suicide, depression, anxiety, and it's a masterpiece. And if it's misunderstood or critically not well received, it's because people are dumb and they just don't understand it. That's a lot about Charlie Kaufman, is people just don't want to look into what his movies symbolize. I'm sure there's some people that don't like it because he's a little self-indulgent, especially with the referential stuff where it's like, this is a book I read last week that 5 people have heard of. But I think it really fits in well with his overall style, and I enjoy his shit, and I think he's really talented, and I think that his movies are fantastic. Maniac 2012 and Nymphomaniac Volume 2 2013. So the 2012 Maniac, I actually did a review of both Maniac films, and I loved it. The Frank Calhoun Maniac is really well made. It's beautifully shot. Elijah Wood gives an incredible performance, and I think it's a case of someone taking the source material of a really incredible slasher film and kind of turning it on its head and doing their own thing with it. And I have a very fond appreciation for the Maniac remake. I think more people need to see it. I think it's incredibly well made. The score is beautiful, and if you want to watch that review, I'll tag it up in here. But yeah, it's really great. And as far as Nymphomaniac Volume 2, I like Lars von Trier a lot. I've actually never seen either of the Nymphomaniac films, and they're on my list, and I'm going to go into them with an open mind and see what I think, because I know his material is kind of polarizing, but he's an incredible director, and I really respect the fuck out of him, and I think that I'm sure that I'll enjoy it, even if it's a little bloated or self-indulgent. I'm sure I'll find something to pull out of it that I will enjoy. This is going to be my last one for this video, and this one is very specifically going to be targeted at my sister. Hannah, I love you, and I hope that you appreciate this person's ridiculous review. Cat in the Hat is my childhood, and looking back at it now, it's still pretty lit. So my sister and I have this back and forth rapport where we joke about the Mike Myers Cat in the Hat film a lot. I think the movie is absolute garbage. I think it's a terrible movie. I think we're all aware that it's not a good film. You have some kind of like nostalgia looking back on this, and more power to you. I mean, Mike Myers is hamming it up. I still remember that line where he says something about "I sit on babies." If I can find it, I'm going to put it right here in the video. But some guy did this Letterboxd review that was like his thesis on why it is an absolute masterpiece. And it's one of the funniest fucking things that I've ever read in my life. And I love the shit posting. If you really like Cat in the Hat, dude, more power to you. This is funny as fuck. It was a hell of a way to end the video. Now I'm going to go back and watch it and watch Mike Myers say, "You mean they'll pay me to sit on babies?" And I'll be like, oh, some guy thinks this is great. Like, what is wrong with you? That's today's hot takes. Did you agree? Did you disagree? Who's right? Who's wrong? I don't know. There might not be a right answer, but I am interested to hear from you. Leave me a comment down below and let me know your hottest take about film, what it is. What's a movie you love that people hate? What's a director you love that people can't stand? Any film review, any film hot take you have, I'm ready to hear it. As always, if you like the video, subscribe to the channel. Helps me out a lot. We're getting towards the end of the year. 2022's coming. I'm going to do my best at 2021 list. Got a lot of material to put out there for you guys, and I'm looking forward to it. As always, Internet, thanks so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.